Hello folks, hope you're well. I'm going to speak about a subject now which is born out of, I've done videos talking about the left and how the left is, having an incredibly perverted view of things and all this reaction stuff, right? Okay. We have a situation that's happened recently over recent years where people like Harvey Weinstein have been in trouble. And not just Harvey Weinstein, you've had people in the UK that were radio disc jockeys on programs like Top of the Pops. They've all got into trouble. The reality is, again, they've spoken a lot about the nature of Hollywood and the casting couch. Well, take, for example, Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe was not a good actress in any way, shape or form. She was not good at acting. She was quite average. She had pretty much no chance of getting an acting role based upon her acting ability. There were far better actors, females, than her. But what she did have was the looks. Facially and bodily, she had the look that most men found adorable. Okay. So she had tools that she could use. Right? Because in society now, the extreme feminists, they believe that it would be right to say that Marilyn Monroe and women like that, well done. You use the tools that you had to your advantage. Good for you. Right? Okay. Well, okay. What about those people who were the directors and producers and owners of the movie companies who did favours for the women, gave them roles for sex? Okay. Is it not okay for them to use the tools that they had available? Because when you compare them to her, she wouldn't have got the roles because her acting ability wasn't good enough. Those men would never have got a woman like her because they were older, they were fatter. Because they were older, they didn't do as much, so therefore they put on weight. And they weren't as good looking as a younger man would be in most cases. But they had the ability to put her on screen, to give her a role that she wanted. She had something they wanted. They had something she wanted. So therefore they had what's called a transaction. In other ways, Marilyn Monroe prostituted herself. Well, she did. She did. Because what is prostitution? Prostitution is you have sex for profit. You can say for money. Money is profit. Any type of profit. Yeah? So, and it doesn't mean you actually have to have sex. It could just be the fantasy of sex. So, therefore, things like OnlyFans. OnlyFans people are prostitutes because they are making money from sex. Or from the fantasy of sex. So, therefore, okay, Marilyn Monroe was, therefore, prostituting herself. Because she was. She was using her body. She was basically saying, okay, I will have sex with you for that role. Being given that role gave her what? Well, money is one of the things it gave her. Celebrity, it also gave her. But it gave her money. It gave her celebrity. It gave her so much. So she got so much for having sex. Would most women say, that's the point. Most extreme feminists now will look at prostitution and say, the women, well done. The men, disgusting. Right? Excuse me. How are you saying well done to the women if the men weren't employing those women to do that? There wouldn't be any prostitutes. So you can't say prostitution is okay. It's just the men that use them are out of order. If no men used them, there would be no prostitution. The women that therefore are prostitutes would do what? A lot of them, their last hope is that. Because the majority of prostitutes around the world, they don't have a pimp. They do it because they're desperate. It's a way of making a good amount of money, well, comparatively, for very, very little time. Yes. You have to have the indecency of, performing some sexual act with a complete stranger, but then it means you can eat. It then means you can pay the bills so your electricity stays on. It means that your child can get you can get nappies for your child, you can get food for your child, you can put the heating on in winter so that your older parents don't die, your children don't die. No. I'm not going to say either side is wrong because a transaction is made. Part of the reason why prostitution is illegal is because the tax man doesn't get his bit. If the tax man got his bit, it would be perfectly legal. So, isn't it a case that there's a version of prostitution, the top level or toppish level? But if they pay tax, I think that's a lot more legal, isn't it? Yeah, because tax is being paid. The law cares about is the government getting their money. They don't particularly care about the rest of it. Is the government getting its money? If so, it's legal. If the government isn't getting its money, sorry, illegal. As soon as you start paying, okay, it's legal now. Yeah. Problem is, most prostitution can't be legalised because it's very small. Yeah. But as I say, I don't judge Marilyn Monroe at all. She did what she had to do to get what she wanted, and she used the tools that she had available. Right? She had something they wanted, they had something she wanted. There you go. Okay. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying doing that is right. I'm not saying that women should use their body in such a way. But if they choose to, that's up to them. That's their choice. That's their decision. I'm not going to say it's right or wrong. It's yours. It's your decision to do with as you wish. Same as men, with your money and with your position, with your if you're making a film, with every acting role, it's your job to decide who you want there and why you want them there. I've seen so many movies and so many TV programs recently, certainly recently, that were really poor. And one has to question what on earth was going on there, because a lot of the cast just weren't good enough. So, were they having sex with a producer to get a role? It wouldn't surprise you if they were, because they didn't get it because they were good. Maybe they got it because they were just trying to pump out some cheap program or movie. Yeah, that's more likely to be the case. But yeah, I'm not going to judge the men, the producers. I'm not going to judge the other people. I'm not going to judge the people in the British people, the DJs, because I've done videos about this saying, I understand. Put yourself in their position. Most of the DJs weren't that good looking, because they weren't. Not really. Yeah, they had a job to do. They did their job. Yeah, they were good at doing radio shows. So, yeah, they went on things like Top of the Pops because they were presenting the charts and stuff. And so, therefore, having all these beautiful women around you, these absolutely gorgeous women, offering you favours if you'd let them be on TV. Those of us who've never been in that position don't know what that temptation would have felt like at that time. The problem is we now live in a time when the world looks at them and says they had the power, and yes, the women wanted to do sexual favours to get on the TV, and that would have been the case. Yeah, I'm not judging them. Couldn't care less. That's their situation. Okay. But then, yeah, because some of these men said yes to that, then they were abusing their power. But again, come on, women. Understand what power you have. Understand that in places, in times in history, in certain countries, women are covered because they understand how distracting it can be for men, even to see a tiny, teeny bit of ankle. Right? They understand how men can be completely distracted by that. How men are driven by sex. And then, so women have this power. Their body. Their breasts and their vagina. Tools that are far more powerful than any tools that a man has got. Any tools that a man has got. And they use that. Okay. As I say, I'm not judging any of them on that. But I'm saying, don't judge the men. Don't judge the men. At all. And yeah, doing the stuff that the left has been doing. Yeah. Trying to make young men feel guilty for what men in the past have done. Yeah, but claiming that the men in the past were abusive to women and did all this and put women down, which they didn't do. It never happened. Not in the way that we're told. It was mainly women putting women down, not men. Well, even this point of, women being called slappers. Men wouldn't have done that. Most men wouldn't, because with men, would you ever slag a woman off if you've got a chance to have sex with them? The answer is no. The only one that's going to slag that woman off is one that's got no interest in them whatsoever. And that would be a woman. Right? Because, as I said before, men are designed biologically to be sexually attracted to most women. They are not going to, therefore, wreck an opportunity or a possible opportunity in the past. We know that when you have these men who are like kiss-arsey friends to women and try and be all feminine, most often they're doing it in the hope that they can get with the women. Now, I'm not saying they are now, because with the young generation, too many of the men have been completely and utterly feminized. But, yeah, certainly in the past that was often the case. Men don't do that. Men don't slag off women. They don't. The way that men have been labelled, it is ridiculous. But as I say, be truthful. Use the brain that God has given you. Consider the situation. Don't just join in with labelling people according to the way society wants to now. Consider it. And judge it according to truth, not according to making other people happy. You take care. God bless. Bye-bye.